The Sony a7S III has been out for 5 years now, and while it was revolutionary at the time of its release, you now have cameras from the competition like the Canon C50, Panasonic S1 II, and Nikon ZR catching up or even surpassing it in many ways. And in my opinion, the Sony a7S IV and really the FX3 Mark II as well are going to need 3 non-negotiable new features if they're going to be competitive with other modern cameras. Plus, there are 4 bonus features that I would love if they included as well. Hey, by the way, my name is Matt Johnson, and my goal is to teach you all about filmmaking and video editing, and I guess a video ranting about Sony features would qualify for that, so please subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Anyways, let's start with the first and arguably one of the biggest non-negotiable features that the a7S IV needs to have, and that is internal RAW video recording. When the a7S III was released way back in 2020, which does not feel that long ago, but it actually is, there weren't many video cameras recording RAW video internally. It was really just Blackmagic and Red, plus Canon with the R5 and a few other random options. If you wanted to record RAW video, you either needed to buy a cinema camera that supported it, or use an external video recorder monitor combo like an Atomos Ninja with your a7S III running into the HDMI port. But 2020 was really the last time that RAW video was limited to just a few camera manufacturers, because in 2021, Nikon introduced the Z9 with internal RAW recording, followed by the Z8, Z6 III, and ZR, etc. that can all do that. Then in 2024, Panasonic also threw their hat into the ring with internal ProRes RAW recording with the GH7 and now the S1 II line of cameras, and suddenly, 5 years after the a7S III's announcement, it's looking like Sony, who is usually ahead of the pack with features and capabilities, is being surpassed by literally all of the competition when it comes to recording internal RAW video. Because of that, Sony has a couple of options. At the bare minimum, I would love to see the a7S IV, FX3 II, as well as other future cameras at the very least implement internal ProRes RAW recording, because that is what all of their competition is offering as well. But in addition, I also really love how Nikon has created their own flavor of RAW video. And fun fact, Sony actually has their own versions of RAW as well, one of which is called Sony RAW, which we're not going to focus on, but the other is called XOCN, which stands for Extended Tonal Range Original Camera Negative. There's a mouthful. This is a format that you would commonly find on Sony's higher-end cinema cameras, like the Venice and Burano. But considering how many higher-end cinema camera features trickle down to the a7S III and FX series of cameras already, I would love to see XOC and RAW recording come to these cameras as well. Heck, there's even a light version of this RAW codec that would give us smaller file sizes while still being 16-bit RAW, which I am all for. In short, Sony, give us some form of internal RAW recording. Moving on, let's talk about the next non-negotiable feature that the a7S IV needs, and I'm sure there are those of you that have already been commenting wondering why this wasn't the first feature on the list that I talked about, and maybe it's just because I wanted you to watch more of the video. But you knew it was coming. The a7S IV and FX3 II and all these other cameras, while we're at it, need open gate recording. If you want to take a photo with a Sony camera, you are welcome to use the full width and height of the sensor. But oh, you're recording a video? Sorry, we're cropping the top and bottom to the 16:9 aspect ratio. Why the heck is that? Well, keep in mind that in 2020, there weren't nearly as many cameras offering open gate recording, and more importantly, there were also dramatically less anamorphic lenses available as well. But here we are years later, and you have Panasonic offering a ton of open gate aspect ratios and anamorphic D-squeeze options, and the other camera manufacturers are getting on board as well, because more and more companies out there are making anamorphic lenses that are now more affordable than ever, and it's time. It's time for Sony to enable open gate recording on their cameras and not only give us 4:3 or 3:2 aspect ratios, but also give us robust supporting features for filming in anamorphic as well. Customizable D-squeeze amounts for monitoring, anamorphic specific in-body image stabilization, frame guides and markers for anamorphic, etc. Make these cameras fully support open gate, and filmmakers will be so happy with you, Sony. Let's get to the next non-negotiable feature that the a7S IV and FX3 II need as well, and it may not be as glamorous as OpenGate, but it is arguably one of the most important features to me, and that is internal 32-bit float audio recording. Up until 2024, all cameras, literally all of them, only supported recording audio internally in up to 24-bit. And if you wanted to record in 32-bit float, which gives you dramatically more control over the audio levels when editing, you had to use an external audio recorder and then sync the recorded audio in post, and it was a big pain. Then, in 2024, Panasonic introduced the GH7, which supported 32-bit float audio recording with an XLR hot shoe adapter that is compatible with all their newer cameras as well, all of which also support 32-bit float audio recording. And more recently, Nikon introduced the ZR, which takes things to the next level and enables everything recorded with that camera to be in 32-bit float. Yes, just connect a microphone to the 3.5mm mic jack or hot shoe of that camera, and anything will be recorded in 32-bit float. It's fantastic. And now, in the space of little more than a year, all of Sony's cameras have dramatically fallen behind in this area of high-quality audio recording. And considering that Sony already has such a robust lineup of on-camera microphones that attach to the hot shoe, plus 4-channel audio recording, adding 32-bit float audio to this as well is really a no-brainer, and in my opinion, it's just going to make the cameras better across the board. I realize that audio is not nearly as glamorous as video, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. Audio is the most important part of any video, and any improvements that Sony can make to their camera's audio recording capabilities are welcomed. Now, before we keep talking about these Sony camera features I want to draw your attention to some of the B-roll I've been using in this video, because I had a really fun process for coming up with these shots. For all these scenes with the camera in front of a cool background, I actually started by conceptualizing them using my Artlist Max subscription. See, when you sign up for Artlist Max, you get access to a massive variety of powerful AI tools and generators for images, videos, and voiceovers. Specifically, I use the AI video generator, and here's where it gets really cool, because it lets you experiment with a bunch of different AI models, like the brand new Sora 2 that is now available globally, Kling, Cdance Pro, Google Veo, and more. Each one gives you a slightly different take on your idea. Kling has fantastic motion to all of the visuals. Google Veo has multiple versions, including options with very realistic audio if you want it. Sora 2 is stunningly realistic. And the best part is that you don't have to juggle a bunch of separate subscriptions. Artlist Max bundles all of these tools together in one place in one subscription, which makes experimenting with your ideas super easy. So to create the concepts for these backgrounds, I knew I wanted a time lapse, but I wanted to use AI purely as a brainstorming tool to explore a visual direction. I typed in my idea, a time lapse of stars. Then I ran that prompt through different AI models just to see what kind of variations I could get, and some of the results were mind-blowingly good. This really helped me refine my concept and is a great way to visualize an idea before you start searching for real footage. Once I had a direction that I liked, it was easy to hop right over to Artlist stock footage library and find real clips that matched those AI-generated concepts. That's what I love about using AI in this way. It's not replacing real filmmaking, it's helping you brainstorm and refine your ideas faster. If you want to try it for yourself, you can use my link in the description to get 2 extra months free of your Artlist subscription. Go check it out. Next, we have covered the 3 non-negotiable upgrades that I want to see from the a7S IV and FX3 II, because I really feel like Sony needs at least those things to remain competitive, and if they're not in those cameras, I'm going to be very upset. I know a lot of other filmmakers will be too. But that said, there are also other upgrades I would love to see Sony make, and if you've been preparing to comment about other features that I haven't mentioned yet, hold on a second, because the odds are that I'm probably going to talk about them now, because we need to shift our attention to my wish list for upgrades. These updates don't really have to happen, but I would love to see them. Up first for my wish list, I would love to see the a7S IV get a bump in sensor resolution up to 24 megapixels, up from 12. This would enable a ton of super cool upgrades, including the ability for the camera to record in 6K resolution, up from 4K on the a7S III, which I have to say, after using the Panasonic S1 II and Nikon ZR, both of which can record in 6K, the added flexibility for reframing in post is really nice to have. I think most of us will agree that 4K resolution is really kind of the standard now. It's the baseline. It's become what 1080p HD used to be. Remember that whenever we were recording in 4K but delivering videos in HD, and we had so much room to reframe our footage and it looked so sharp? Well, that's basically what 6K recording is offering, because it's a very large jump in resolution over 4K, while also not being as crazy as something like 8K. Throw in the fact that this also would enable the a7S IV to use an APS-C Super 35 crop mode in 4K on the sensor, which has not been possible on any previous a7S cameras, and which, if we are talking about open gate, a lot of anamorphic lenses are made for Super 35, so this makes a lot of sense. Now, as for the frame rates for this sensor, if we're dreaming here, remember, this is a wish list. At minimum, I want the camera to record in 6K at 60 frames per second. But just like how the a7S III surprised everyone by enabling 4K at 120 FPS, I would love if the a7S IV could somehow record in 6K at 120 FPS. I realize this is a big ask, but remember, the Panasonic S1 II and Nikon ZR are using a Sony partially stacked sensor, and you can't tell me that Sony isn't holding something back from their competition. Maybe an even more special sensor for the a7S IV. Now, all this dream of a 6K sensor is going to require some more magic to take place. Namely, this sensor is going to need to be able to have at least equivalent low light performance of the a7S III, meaning it ideally needs to hit at least ISO 12800 with the second base ISO. And in addition, I would also love if it didn't make the camera overheat, even if it doesn't have a fan. The a7S III has phenomenal passive cooling, which does not overheat even when recording in 4K at 60 FPS outdoors on a hot day, and I would love to see if Sony could make that happen with 6K at 60 FPS on the a7S IV. Remember, this is just a wish list, but dream with me a little. Speaking of dreams, my next dream would be an even larger screen on the back of the camera. I've always been pretty happy with the screen on the back of my a7S III because pretty much all mirrorless camera back screens, aside from those from Blackmagic, have been about 3 inches in size. But with the introduction of the Nikon ZR, that camera has a 4-inch back screen. And while 1 inch may not seem like a big difference, it is actually a massive difference in experience when filming with that camera. Everything's more immersive, it's easier to see what you're filming and confirm that everything's in focus. And now that I've used it on a camera, I basically want every camera that I own going forward to have a screen of this size. But of course, throw in the tilting and flipping screen capabilities like the A7R5 and A1 II as well, Sony, please. Finally, we're getting to the bigger dreams now, the wilder dreams, the possibly crazy ones that I doubt that we'll ever see. But hey, if we're dreaming, let's dream big. Let's start with the slightly more possible dream before we get to the really out there one, and that is, I would be very intrigued if Sony gave the a7S IV a global shutter sensor. This is a technology we've only seen from Sony with the A9 Mark III, but considering that Red currently does it with many of their cinema cameras, I think that it's at least a possibility. And whenever you consider the benefits of a global shutter sensor, benefits like complete elimination of rolling shutter, which, to be clear, a fast readout speed of the sensor has always been a strength of the a7S line, so that would fit right in. Plus more benefits like no more flickering LED lights due to wonky refresh rates. I think there are a ton of benefits here to global shutters, and this would really help differentiate the a7S IV and FX3 Mark II from its competition. And then, if we're talking about what is arguably an even bigger dream than global shutter, if there is one feature that has not been available on any compact mirrorless video camera, even though filmmakers have been asking for it for many years now, if Sony could implement this, it would be a major differentiating factor for this camera and really cement it as the main choice of filmmakers going forward. It would be the addition of, yes, internal ND filters on the a7S IV. It's a big ask, literally, because Sony would have to figure out a way to fit this filter in front of the sensor while keeping in-body image stabilization, etc. But they've already proven they're able to do that with the Burano, the first cinema camera to have IBIS and an ND filter. So you cannot tell me that they're not at least working on it, that an ND filter is not at least on the roadmap for a future camera. And why couldn't it be on the roadmap for the a7S IV? Thanks for dreaming with me about these updates for the a7S IV and FX3. My filmmaker gear guide is linked down in the video description with all the equipment that I recommend you purchase for filmmaking. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you loved it, and have a great day.